Hello, Daryl here. The channel is Programming in Any Language. The supporting website is programminginanylanguage.com or black-duck.com. They both take you to the same place. And it's a place where you'll find the videos and PDFs of the code. The video is Working with Multiple Forms. In this video, we'll examine the concept of modal and modelless forms. Basically, when should a form have the focus? In addition to that, we will learn how to place controls on a second and third form, and even more importantly, how to access those controls from other forms. Here's how we'll do all that. We spent the last video looking at modal forms and modelless forms. We didn't call them that as much. We talked about it in the very end of the video. Primarily, we were looking at creating multiple forms in a project. And we did that. We got that part done. Now that we've got those forms available to us, what can we do with them? Well, we can put stuff on them. We can put controls on them. And we can make them do different things. So this video is basically the application of classes working with multiple forms. We're going to use multiple forms and use them in the project. A form can be either modal or modelless. When a modal form is displayed, no other form in the application can receive the focus until the modal form is closed. The user must close the modal form before they can work with any other form in the application. A modelless form allows the user to switch focus to another form while it is displayed. Several modelless forms can be opened at the same time, but only one has the focus at the user's discretion. Now, we need to really see this kind of in action so we can understand a little bit better. Before we do that, we're going to take a look at the show dialog method displays a modal form. So the show dialog is going to show that piece. In a modal form, the statement following the show dialog method will not execute until the modal form is closed. So we've got these, we might have a button here, and all these statements are in there. It'll do this statement, it'll do this statement, and then it'll do the message form show dialog, and a new form will pop up. At that point, the focus goes to that new form. And you can't get at these statements right here until you close the form that you're actually in. So that's what a modal form does. It allows you to change forms and stay on that form until it closes. The show method doesn't have a dialog piece in it, displays a modelless form. In a modelless form, the statements following the show dialog method will execute immediately after the modelless form is displayed. So again, we have a button of some kind or whatever. These statements will execute, then the message form show brings up the new form, and these things fly right away. They actually show right away. They actually will execute right away, even though there's another form running on your screen. What does that all look like? Well, we've got it here, but let me go ahead and explain this to you. I can kind of show it to you. If we bring up this, I've got this thing already done here. If I bring it up here like this and bring it up, we've got a main form right here. And it's got a directions button and an exit button on it. And it's got a bunch of buttons right in here. Well, if I click on the directions button, what I am was feel free to move the directions to another location on the screen. It becomes a little message box. So I can take this guy and I can move him around. Works just fine. Can I go back here? Yeah, I can. I can go back there without any problems. So what I've got here is a modelless form that basically allows me to move about and put it anywhere on the screen and jump back and forth with focus between either form. Not a problem there. These buttons right here are going to call a modal form. And when I hit body weight squats, for example, up comes the body weight squats. Now, like the directions button, I can move this around. But I can't get to anything else. It won't let me get to these other forms. It allows me, it forces me to stay here on this particular form. And until I close it, am I able to get back at the other forms and move them around and do things with them. Whoops, I just closed them off. Bring that up again. And there he is. He's sitting right there. So with the walking lunges, for example, I can bring that up. And again, I cannot get here. I can get here. The interesting thing now, once I close this particular form right here, I can bring up more modelless forms. Many as I want. It keeps on coming. Yeah, I can still do this. And once I do this, I can't get at any of these guys. I need to close it, then I can. So that's the difference between the modal and modelless form. I'm going to actually kill the application. It'll take everything away and pull those off to the side. So what we're looking at here is we have a parent form with the things we wanted to display. And we've got a set of directions here that come up, and it's modaless. We can just move it off the side. It doesn't bother us anymore. We can always read these directions as we go through the process right here. If we bring up, hit one of those radio buttons, we bring up a new form, a details form, which has the name of the particular exercise you're going to do, the sets, the reps, and a graphic going to show up there, and a close button to close it off. We still have our instructions here. We put them over here. We can't touch them right now, but we can still read them, and we can go ahead and follow this thing and then close it off when we're all done. It's a modal form, so it's frozen here. It's going to focus to be on this particular form. That's our focus right now. The way you create an application with 3 forms is you create the 3 forms, or how many you're going to have, and then name them. And that's kind of what I did here. I got a directions form, a details form, and a main form. And they're all sitting out here. As you can see, details, directions, main. So they're all sitting there. Once you've done that, you create your application with the 3 forms by putting the pieces you're going to have on here, the objects you're going to need. I've got a label here, a label here. I got a couple labels I'm not going to refer to in code. I've got a place to put my graphics that's going to display those rows and those push-ups and all the rest of the things we have out there. I've got a close button to close off this form. I got my body weight guy here, directions and exit. Directions brings up this particular form, which also closes, and exit button closes off everything. You notice I have a jumping jacks thing right here. This should be really called default. I just threw it on there. I wanted a radio button that was displayed but invisible. So when I wasn't showing anything, I would just have the option for the user to click on any one of these guys when they wanted to bring up that particular piece, and then use the click event to bring up the graphic that I'm describing here. When it's off, I wanted this button to be active, which would be invisible, and no one would see it. It was hide the button, basically, for that matter. You'll see how that worked when we actually build this thing. When you get those controls in the form, you want to name them. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to give them all names. You don't have to do the sets of reps here. I'm going to do this, because I'm using it in code. I'll use these two in code, or this one in code, this close button in code. So those are the ones that I actually name. But the important thing is you can't get at these controls from other forms unless you change their modifiers. The modifiers are generally private. You want to change that to public. Once it's public, other forms can get at these things by referencing the form name and the object on the form. So controls provided by the .NET framework have a private access by default. Only code written on that form's class can access the control. By changing the modifier property of the control to public, you allow the code from other forms to access that control. Here's how we do that. When we want to access control, in the case of the radio squats button, that's this one right here, body weight squats, we got a radio button called radio squats. The radio button is checked. So right now we're showing the default being checked, but if a person clicked on here, this would execute. The change event would execute and cause this all to happen. The code creates an instance of details form. You can see right here, details, my details equal new details. So it's creating a copy of the details form we created here, an instance of it. It applies data to the 3 labels on the details form. So you're going to see the labels, these 3 labels will get populated. And it also put a graphic here. It applies, a graphic is also added. And next, the modal form is displayed with the show dialog. And we have these labels here, the picture box coming, and the show dialog. Now, this particular code right here, this line of code, radio default check is true, is not going to execute until we click the close button on here. So basically, this radio button will stay lit up. It'll be behind the form, behind the details form. We won't see it. But as soon as you close the detail button, this radio button will get checked, and it's invisible, so you won't see it. It's our default button. So what you'll see is a screen with blank radio buttons on it, allowing the user to pick something else if they want. So that's really what we're talking about. Only after the details form is closed is the radio squats radio button cleared by checking the invisible default button on there. Step 3, we change the modifiers property in each control that needs to be accessed to the outside form in public. And that's right here labeled. These guys are going to be accessed by the main form, so we need to set those to public so that we can get access to them. Then we write our code. That's all there is to it. I mean, just like you normally write, except right now you have the ability to write code in several different forms, not just one, but several different forms. No different than you're doing a single form application. So let's take a look at that. We'll create a form here. We're going to simulate that little piece that we just did here and make this all happen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating the main form. And that main design form, I'm going to change this right up here. I'm going to go ahead and change the the form name to main. Now, I want to also change the form. So I'm going to go here, right-click on it, and rename this guy. So hit rename on here, and we're going to call this main form. Or just main. I think that's sufficient. And step off of it. It says, do I want to rename the file? Would you like to perform a rename of this project? All references to the code elements? Yes. Bang. So now our main form is existing right here. And I want to make it the same size as I had for the other form. So what I'm going to do is take a look at the properties and kind of create this guy and go ahead and change the size of this thing, this main form, to be 355 by 412. And that's my main form. So it's looking nice. It's all set right here. The next thing I want to do is take my directions form and put that in place. So my directions form will be a new form. How do I get that? Well, I right-click on the workout demo here, and I add a new item. That new item is going to be a form, a Windows form. I'll click on this right here. I'll give it a name down here, and that name is going to be directions. I'll add it. There it is. Now I want to make this the same size as the example we were showing a little while ago, so I'm going to change the form size to 287 by 329. And we've got that in place. So good to go. We need one more form now. We're going to be using that details form is what we need to add. So we're going to go up here and add another form. Add a new item. It's going to be a form, Windows form. And this time we'll call it details. We'll add it. There it is. And keeping in sync with the application we displayed a little while ago, we'll make this 396 and we'll make this 456. The reason I'm doing the same size as we did before rather than arbitrarily doing it, because I'm going to copy the objects on here to save us time. And so they're all in the same place and make it look like that. So that's what I've got here. I've got these things named. They're all set to go. Now what I want to do is put controls on these things. So what I need here is I need image graphics thing. I'm going to bring over our toolbox. So let's go ahead and view our toolbox right here. That brings it up. And I'm going to go ahead and copy the pieces, the objects I have on my other form, my last application, just do a Control-C and place them on here where they're supposed to be. And they'll come up right there. Nice thing about their name now. So I've got a button close sitting right here. I've got a label reps right here. I've got a label sets. And I've got a label exercise. And I've got a PBX graphic. What I'm missing right now is the image. I need to go over to it's in your components. I'll grab this. And it pops up down here. I want to name this thing now, and I happen to call it image graphics. So I'm going to just change the name here to IMG graphics. And that's all I need to do on this thing, I believe. Well, no, I need to grab some stuff here. I'm going to go ahead and I want to make it transparent. It is transparent. We want to make this image size 256 by 251. 256 by 251. We're keeping it the same size as the graphics that we actually made that I copied and put in place here. Those graphics we're going to get in a couple of seconds because they're sitting in a collection. And I'm going to grab these guys by going to that collection, clicking on it, and saying I want to add these members. Where am I going to get those things? They're in my graphics folder. They're in my graphics folder right here. Here they are. We're going to add our graphics. We want to add the squats first. The push-ups next. The lunges next. The rows next. The plank. And the jumping jacks. and they're all set in place. So I've got them all set. So I can say OK to this now. So now my graphics are in an array, basically, and my picture box control can grab that based on whatever we've selected up here. So that's the reason they're sitting there. So next thing I want to do is I want to take a look at my, I want to go in here and I want to change my labels, modifiers to private, or to public. It is public. Okay, they're all set to public already. By copying them, they're already made that transition. You can see if I look at sets here, it's a private. We're not going to be doing that in code touching it. I don't need to change that, but the buttons themselves I do need to change, and they're all, this one's private right here. Well, that's because we have it under control. We're not going to use it from outside the control. So the public ones are already set. So we're good to go there. Let's go to our directions. And what I'm going to do here is I want to copy everything from my former direction screen and place that on here. This is now in place. You can see my close button here is button close, and this label is untouched because it's basically a label that's holding some data in it for the instructions. Nothing else needs to be done with this particular form. It's in good shape. Let's go to our main. If we take the controls for our main form and place them on here, we end up with a panel. That panel is called panel 1. I'm not using it in code, so we're just going to leave it like that. I got my radio buttons sitting in here, and they're all named, radio squats and so on, radio rows. And down the very, very bottom, I've got this one called radio default. I'm going to change the wording on this thing too. We're going to make it a little bit more clear. And instead of jumping jacks, we're going to say default. Default. That's just default. Or default button. And it'll be invisible. So if we look at this guy, we can look at it's sitting here as visible, false. All the rest of them are visible, true. So this thing will never show, but it can contain our radio button as being the one that's on at a particular time, not showing all the others. And we don't care where it actually exists on this thing, just so it's there. The directions button is button directions, and the exit button is button exit. All of these guys will have click events or events from check change events will pop in there. And that's really all we have to do. So if we look at our code in the directions menu, there's going to be nothing there. So let's look at directions. We've got it right here. Let's go ahead and open the code in this thing. Right now, there's nothing there. We would like to have the close button executing. So we'll take our directions, go to it, and double click on the close. It pops up, and we can simply close that form. That's all we want to do. It's going to come open and do its thing. The other thing we want to do is we want to go to our details code, and there's nothing here we're going to do except the close button also. So we're going to double click on this, and in here we'll put this particular close. Because basically these are display forms. We're not using much else. We are going to put running stuff on them, but we're not going to do writing much code of these particular things. All the work's going to be done by the main form primarily. So let's go to our main form, and let's go ahead and look at the code there. And there's nothing there right now. But our main form is going to have a few things in it. The first thing it's going to have is we're going to have an exit button doing something. What's that exit button going to do? It's going to close the application. What's the next thing we're going to do? We have the directions button. So if we click on the directions button, we need to put some code in there. What's the code we're going to put in there? We're going to put in the creation of that form. So we're going to take directions. My direction equals new direction. We're going to create an instance of the form. So create instance of the directions form. Then we're going to show it. Notice I don't have the dialog. I just have show in here. And then our message box is going to pop up right after it's shown. Feel free to move the directions to another location on the screen. This is going to execute right after my directions.show because it's a modaless form. It'll allow us to basically jump down here and execute the code. So we can create many directions if we want to. But it's just clicking this button over and over and over again. So these 3 lines of code will execute in sync, and we'll be all set to go. And we'll be back to our main form again. What's our main form going to do next? Well, it needs to think about what it's going to do with all of these buttons right here. And if we click on body weight squats, we end up with a check change event there. We can put in our code then for that. which is going to be details, my details, equals new details. It's going to create an instance of the details form. We're then going to take our body squats and stick that into that label on that form. We have access to that particular label on the form now because we made it public. We're putting in 3 for our sets and 20 for our reps that we're going to be doing on that particular form. Then we're going to our graphics, image graphics.image 0. We're going to go ahead and put this in place so we can see our graphics in the image folder. And then we'll have the show dialog, which is going to actually create the form. The radio button checked equals true, turning on the radio button, default button, is not going to execute until we actually close this form. Now, why do we have a problem here? Protection level of the graphics. Okay, we have that problem there. So we need to go to that graphics file. So we're going to jump to our details form and look at this particular graphic here. And indeed, we've got it set for private, so we can't get at it. So we'll click on here, we'll click it to public. And now we have access to the image graphics file from our main form. Let's go back to our main form, jump to our body weights code here, and we should make that thing go away. There it is. It just went away. So we're good here now. So we're in good shape. So now all we have to do is go to our main form and do our push-ups. Oops, you know what I didn't do here? Yeah, Control-C. Pop this in here. I need the if statement, if it's checked. So I need to say, there, now we're good shape right here. 20, we got a 10 for push-ups. Okay, so we need to go to our main form again, double-click on walking lunges, place that code in. Once again, instance is created. We put in walking lunges, 3, 10, and we put our graphics, image 2. That's image 1, image 0. We're looking at different graphics here. And our show dialog is sitting in there. Go to our dumbbell rows. If add rows is checked, do these. Go to our planks, pop it in here, and go to our jumping jacks and pop that in here. And that's essentially all we need to do. Now, what's happening? Why are we not doing anything with our default radio button here? We don't want it to do anything if this is set. We're not actually clicking on this because we can't see it. All we want to do is actually make it active but invisible so that we have no other buttons showing when the thing actually runs. The other thing I didn't do yet, I want to click on main and I want to go to the starting position, which is right here. I'm going to go ahead and say I'd like that to be center screen. That way it's going to come up that way when I actually run it. I also want to do that with the details screen. Starting position is going to be center screen. And I want to do it to the directions screen. Center screen. Then I want to save everything. Save all. We're going to run it. And the main form comes up nicely. It's perfect. I don't need the directions if I don't want. I can just click on body weight squats and up they come. And I can move them off, but I can't do anything else until I close them. But I'm going to bring up my directions now. It has that little message box. Feel free to move directions to another location on the screen. I'll click that off, and I'll move that to another direction on the screen, just so I can have them there. I'll go to my jumping jacks, and there they are. That's kind of nice. I like to put them off to the side here. I like to bring up walking lunges. Can't. I need to close this one first. Then I can do my walking lunges and bring them up, and they show. So it works. We've got our modal form. We've got our non-modal forms running here. Our application has 3 forms altogether, and it works nicely. And there was very, very little code to do in here. I didn't have to do anything to this guy except put the stuff I wanted on here and write the close button. Didn't have to do anything here except create the objects that it needs to hold and put in that image piece so it would contain the different graphics, and then write my close button. And then this is where all my code was. And it was basically the code in the check change event of all of these particular buttons. And I've got that invisible one down here that's on right now because the last time we did a plank, the plank was lit up and we closed it, it executed that line of code which ended up moving it down to the default radio button. That's it. That's all you need to do to create an application with multiple forms and use the objects in on those forms to make your application work. That's multiple forms using the objects in a nutshell. We are not done. Even though we are just getting started with classes, there's much more to learn. Stand by for the next few videos. Thanks for watching. Visit the website when you get a chance. And please subscribe to the channel. There's more stuff coming every week. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.